Mercantilism, a national obsession with wealth and power. Back in the 16th century, mercantilism was the main economic philosophy in Europe. It wasn't just some theory, it was a whole national strategy. Countries were obsessed with getting rich and powerful, and they thought the key was to pile up as much gold and silver as possible. They saw the world's wealth like a pizza with only so many slices, so if one country wanted a bigger slice, another country had to get a smaller one. This me-first attitude led to a lot of competition between nations. Gold fever, a measure of success. Mercantilists were entirely entrapped by shiny metals, especially gold and silver. They weren't just pretty trinkets, they were the ultimate sign that a country was doing well. To get their hands on more gold and silver, countries tried to sell way more stuff to other countries than they bought. They wanted a trade surplus because that meant other countries would have to pay them in precious metals, filling up their national piggy banks. Government, the mercantilist referee. Mercantilists weren't going to just sit back and hope for the best. They thought the government should be actively involved in making sure their country came out on top in the economic game. They had a few tricks up their sleeves. Export promotion. They gave domestic businesses a boost to produce goods for export. It was like giving them a pep talk and some extra cash to make their products more competitive on the world stage. Import restrictions. They weren't too keen on foreign goods coming into the country, so they made it harder and more expensive for those goods to compete with local products. This meant putting high taxes on imports and limiting how much could be brought in. Colonies. Some European powers took things a step further and went on a colonial shopping spree. They saw colonies as a way to get their hands on valuable raw materials and as guaranteed buyers for their finished goods. It was a win-win for the colonial powers, but not so much for the people living in the colonies. The mercantilist mindset. Mercantilism wasn't just about economics, it was a whole way of thinking. It was about being self-sufficient and not relying on other countries for anything important. They thought a strong country could take care of itself, so they focused on building up their own industries and making sure their people had the skills they needed. They also saw international trade as a cutthroat competition, not a friendly exchange. Critiques of mercantilism. But not everyone was on board with mercantilism. Some economists thought the whole thing was a bit misguided. They pointed out a few key flaws. Wealth is infinite. They argued that wealth isn't just about how much gold and silver you have. It's about what you can produce and how efficiently you can do it. They believed that countries could actually create more wealth by working together and trading freely. Protectionism backfires. They said that protecting your industries from competition might seem like a good idea at first, but it can actually make them lazy and less innovative. It's like trying to get stronger by lifting light weights instead of challenging yourself. Consumers get the short end of the stick. With all the taxes and restrictions on imports, consumers ended up paying more for goods and had fewer choices, which made things difficult for the shoppers. Lessons learned. Eventually, the mercantilist time came to an end, but its ideas still echo in the halls of power today. We still see protectionist policies like tariffs and subsidies popping up, especially when economies are struggling. Some argue that certain mercantilist ideas like investing in education and infrastructure were actually good for long-term growth. But others point to its negative impacts, like how it made countries more likely to fight over resources instead of cooperating. So, what can we learn from all of this? Well, for one thing, it reminds us that economics isn't just about numbers and theories. It's about people, politics, and power. And even though mercantilism might seem like ancient history, its after effects still shape how we think about trade and economic policy today.